It's BourbonBLog.com live, and tonight we are tasting the Black Truffle Rye with our good friend Adam Spiegel. He's whiskey maker, founder of Sonoma Distilling Company in California. This is the first ever. Well, when you created it a few years ago, had anybody done a Black Truffle Rye whiskey before?
No, haven't heard or seen one yet. I'm sure they're coming. And there's plenty of people who, when they make black truffle things, they use essence and they use like a salt. And what ends up happening there is it tastes either too concentrated in the truffle flavor, or people are just sort of disappointed by how little it tastes like it, right? And so what we did that was a bit different is when you throw actual truffles in there, it just sort of changes everything. It makes them all taste a heck of a lot different.
Yes, it's incredible what you've done, and these are real French. Is it Perigord truffle?
Perigord, yeah, Perigord. So that's a region in France where they come from. They're the black truffles. What we did is so maybe I can go back to the beginning, sort of like where it started, how it kind of came about.
Yeah, let's hear the beginning of the story because this is an exciting story.
Back in the day. No, so about 4 or 5 years ago, I was sitting in Madrona Manor, which is a beautiful bar, restaurant, hotel up in Healdsburg. And I was talking to the then bar manager there, Pam, one day. We were sitting talking about food and food pairings and all sorts of stuff. And I told her that, I really like to cook with my rye whiskey because I like how, especially with my mushrooms, you can get some foraged mushrooms or what have you, that when you sort of do the flambe at the end, the way that the rye, the spice of that rye really interacts well with the sort of umami-ness of a mushroom. Yeah, that's really fun and different. She's like, oh, that's cool. And she ran to the kitchen and grabbed a little sliver of black truffle and threw it into a bottle. I was like, let's just see what happens.
Just put a little sliver in a bottle.
Just a little sliver into a bottle. And at that time, we were releasing our cask strength rye whiskey, so it really was, something that can infuse fairly quickly because it's much higher alcohol. And then she showed up at the distillery, all about a week or two later. She's like, you got to try this. And so, Pam, you're a goddess. And really, she is the mastermind, the creator of this thing. But, she saw, just in our description and our conversation, she saw how, these things could interact together. Wow. And she helped create this amazing thing that, it's seasonal, right? We release, I think we did 300 cases of this in last year's batch, which we've sort of been releasing now for a year. We'll release another batch that's about the same size going into next year. And it's a seasonal thing, right? Truffles are seasonal. Here, just as a side note too, thank you, Pam. If you go to the back, you can see her name right there. She is a goddess. It's hidden on the back there, but
whereabouts is it again?
If you go right above the barcode right there on the side.
Oh, I do. Yes.
Thank you, Pam.
Amazing. Thanks to Pam. And again, if you're a truffle fan, a rye whiskey fan, I mean, this is something that's so interesting because we know about flavored whiskeys, but this is not really a flavored whiskey. It's a whiskey with a flavor, right?
Yeah, we're trying to raise the ball here. I mean, we make whiskey. The Sonoma Distilling Company is a distillery that focuses, 7 days a week for the last 10 years on just making good whiskey. Right. And then on top of that, now we're taking this highly sort of culinary product and merging the two together because I really have had a hard time with, the whiskey world being such a stratifying thing. People would say, oh, I'll go out there and get cocktail before a meal or after. And it's like, well, why don't you pair whiskey and food? Like you can do it just like you would a wine or a beer. And so, obviously pre-COVID, doing a lot of these whiskey dinners where I can interface with the actual chefs and talk about the things we want to do. And, my mindset and their mindset, that has been such a fun process. Right. And so when you can walk in the door with a black truffle rye, it sort of makes things a little different because the chefs, they're the ones whose eyebrows sort of raise. They're like, why would you go ahead and do that? And we tried. There's an Oregon truffle. I tried an Australian truffle. I tried a truffle out in an Italian, and I just like the French Perigord because the Perigord truffle is it's dense. It's super flavorful. You can smell that thing from across the room. Right. It's sitting in a paper bag, and I've just been really impressed by by this. It's been really fun to see how it interacts with 100% rye mash bill. The way I make it is I pull a blend of a 3-4 year old rye whiskey from special barrels that will sort of mate well with the truffles. I blend those whiskeys together, and then we import the French Perigord in the season, which is generally speaking sort of the winter time.
Right.
So, generally from about November to February is our window. And then we shave them, and then we throw them into rye whiskey. So they basically fly overnight. We always say they sort of get a first class flight from France here. And then we, after they get their champagne in their system and their caviar up in first class.
You make these truffles happy first. Yeah.
You kind of have to. It's sort of like you make them happy, you sing them a song, and then you throw them into rye whiskey. But
so you put those shavings right in the barrel, or what do you put them into?
So right into a tank. So we tried in the early years doing it in a barrel because I was sort of intrigued by the idea of having like a black truffle barrel. And what ended up happening is the barrel sort of diffused out all that flavor, all that essence. So it was sort of a failed experiment. So then we went back and we said, okay, what if we did it in a stainless steel tank? We sort of do a tea bag format. So we literally have these gigantic cloth bags that we submerge the truffles in there for the better part of 6 to 8 months. Which really, by the end of the 6 to 8 months, the truffles have no flavor left. They're like cardboard shavings after that.
All the flavors in the whiskey.
All the flavor's gone. There's still some solid left, but it's literally all gone.
What do you do if you taste these truffles and you think, are they worth tasting at that point?
They're not. I mean, they're not. We freeze them now just for fun, because I imagine some chef one day is gonna like call me up and be like, I want your truffle shavings. I don't care. They don't taste like anything. I want them. But there's some we have in the freezer. I might make a salt out of it or something.
Right.
Get really creative. And then we bottle. We do a light filter just to sort of make sure there's no sort of residual floaties, though, because it's so light. There usually are little specks of truffle in the bottom there, which is great. Some people always ask me like,
it's still there.
Yeah. People ask me like, well, if it's $80 for a bottle, like why can't I get like a truffle shaving in there? And I've always told them, I have no control over the truffles if they're in there, right? So I can control the infusion process, how that's going, what alcohol percentage. We also proof it down with the truffle still in there. It's been a process that we do that helps the water and the whiskey sort of come back together. And we take a really long time to proof. And we're talking 6 months to proof down.
How does that work? If you're what are the challenges you run into there, and how does it work?
Yeah, so what happens is if you infuse at too low of an alcohol, it takes sometimes too long, and you can't control the process. If you start at a higher ABV, so what I found is if I infuse it from cask strength, and then I slowly over the course of 6 to 8 months proof it down damn near to bottle strength by the time it gets to that 8th month, you've got something that's been well integrated with the truffle, well integrated with the whiskey, and well integrated with the water. So those three things are not sort of competing against each other. They just all taste like really nice and uniform. And that's why I feel like this whiskey just has a really good balance to it.
It's incredible. And it's, I think it's one of those that you take a few sips and then you take more and more, and then the truffles continue to open up. The flavor opens up. And this again is the same mash bill as your original rye whiskey.
It is, yeah. So it's the same mash bill, it's just cultivated product. So we go out there and find these barrels, because if I did it for my normal blend, it wouldn't feel special.
Right.
And ultimately, you kind of have to find a companion for these, and so it's been really, and that's a fun process too. I mean,
let me go back and forth to get to see how much the truffle has added, and that umami nature as you described it, and just the real, it's just very there's a lot of texture that happens in the mouth. I mean, just tasting that and just those pops of that beautiful truffle. What do you I mean, obviously we taste truffle on this, but beyond that, when the truffle and rye come together, what do you taste? What is it reminiscent of foods to you that you've had?
So I actually brought this out because I'm going to do a pitch for someone else's book, but
sure.
Everybody needs to go pick up the flavor Bible. Everyone needs to go pick up this book if you don't have it yet. And what's amazing about this book is if you're sitting down and doing a food pairing for your friends, or cooking at home for family, or you really want to show off, you can go into a book like this and you can find something like black truffle, or you can find anise, and you can find all the foods that pair well with anise. And so if you're detecting flavors in your whiskey as you're trying to figure out like where to apply this thing,
right,
open a book up like this, and it's going to tell you where you can identify, you know, what would do really well with the black truffle, what would do really well with the sort of apricot-y, dry stone fruit back end. You know, you've got that rye spice, the white pepper in there. So those are all the things that you think of as you go to sort of peel this thing back. So for me, you know, I'm obviously getting black truffle. I like that it's a bit more subdued.
Yes.
It's not like truffle salt that you put on popcorn or oil and you just ruin really good popcorn, right? So I'm thinking about balance because I come from a cognac mindset, and the distillers I've worked with, you know, Hubert, Jermaine Rabon, and Nancy Fraley. And so the blenders I've worked with, you know, we talk about balance. And so finding a way to balance a truffle, let it do really well. The rye and the truffle come together. And then food pairing wise, you know, dry aged steaks, blue cheese chopped salads, you know, you can do some local honey and some dried fruits. You know, I always tell people get some really good olives in there too, give a little bit of salt. And, you know, for me, that's what would do really well with, you know, black truffle rye.
Yeah. The delicate umami nature of this, it's just, I love that it's not overdone, but it's done enough that, you know, there's black truffle. I mean, I'm sure as you explored, that was probably you went through quite a few experiments before you figured out.
Absolutely. I think this is the best embodiment we have today of what we've done until next year, right? Next year's is I'm already tasting it. We do some bottle resting for about 6 months to a year too. So there's a large period of time in which we've removed the truffles. It's either sitting in a tank or sitting in glass at its bottle strength. And we're just letting it sit. You know, this is sort of the hidden secret of distillation that a lot of distillers don't talk about or do talk about. It's just letting stuff sit and oxidize and just sort of marry together and not feeling the rush to have to throw something in bottle. You know, far too often in the craft space, but I also see this in the big guy space, they're proofing whiskey down so fast. And when you do that, you're having a stratification that occurs between the water and the alcohol. And so letting them marry together both in the tank and the glass, come back together, gives you an opportunity to have some of the taste nice and round. This is 100 proof too. So 50% ABV, you know, that's usually the surprise of the day. Most people try and they're like, what, you know, how the heck did you do that? You know, truffles act like a really good filter in that way. So
that's really incredible. And if anyone watching, if you all have any questions for Adam, please ask them below, tweet back. If you've tried any of his whiskeys, have a favor, even if you've tried this one, you know, let us know. And this one again is this only available? Where can people find this?
So we do have some retailers across the country who've got it. So I would suggest that folks go on and type in black truffle rye into your search engines and see what you can get. We do sell it in California on our website. So if people go to SonomaDistillingCompany.com, they can physically purchase bottles off our website, which we can ship to you in the state of California. We do have this national shippers too. There's a couple companies down in Southern California, Sip Whiskey, from time to time K&L Wines. So definitely think about that.
So there are places people can find this, or they can get it, or they can look on your website.
They can look at our website, exactly. In the state of California, we're allowed to ship due to this whole COVID craziness. So I would strongly recommend, you know, if you want to buy it from us directly, we'll happily sell it to you. There's also a great number of retailers out there who have it. We are still selling the 2018-2019 batch. It was a combined batch because I wanted to increase the size of it. And then we'll have a 2020 that comes out next year. Right around this same time next year, we'll be releasing the 2020, which I can tell you right now because I taste it all the time. It's freaking great. So,
and this is very limited. How many bottles of these do you make?
So we did 300 cases of this last year. So that's what and we'll probably do about the same next year. So we're small. I mean, it's small for us. It's big for a lot of people. You know, right. That's a couple thousand bottles.
Yeah, very limited. And again, if you're a whiskey enthusiast and you like something unique and different, and just something that really sings and allows you to really explore what can a rye whiskey do. I mean, what is really interesting with rye whiskey? You know, definitely try this out. I'll put website link up below, and I'm continuing to go back and forth with your original rye. Which, with your original rye, do you take your time proofing that one down too?
Yeah. So the story of the distillery, maybe to sort of like broadly speak about who we are and what we did. I mean, we started up in 2010. I founded the business up there in a little 800 square foot space, and eventually it grew into and now we're in about 20,000 square feet. And, you know, from those early days, we've been a direct fire pot still facility. So using the Alembic, which is the traditional still you would see making cognacs and calvadoses. We've always used these traditional pot stills. They were direct fired for the first 10 years of our life until about this year. And what's exciting about that is it creates whiskeys that are super viscous, you know, nice full body, you know, especially when we start releasing our bourbons. You know, people are often sort of taken back by the fact they just taste different because they're thicker. They're not, you know, thinner grain, you know, grain-based sort of spirit. They're more sort of like full-bodied, you know, examples of whiskey that are only, you know, 3 or 4 years old, right? So people are sort of taken aback by that. So I kind of tell people I have a sort of a half cognac mind, half whiskey mind, because of the fact that I worked with Hubert Germain Rabon a little bit in 2013, 2014. He's actually come to the distillery almost every single year to sort of continue to evolve my palate and check in on me, make sure I'm doing okay. And then, you know, I worked with other blenders. I mentioned Nancy Fraley before too. You know, I've also been blessed just to be able to talk to people. Like there's plenty of folks in this space who I go and, you know, I got a great rapport with Dan Farber out at Ozacalis. There's another, you know, pot distiller, someone I respect and appreciate. And so I sort of came up in this industry during a really interesting time because there wasn't a lot of people doing this. And I've sort of made my own way, but I really think that the whiskeys are now reflective of that style. So you asked a question, a really long answer to that question was like, how long does it take to proof down? You know, we take a month to 2 months to proof down for a reason. We want the water to really just marry with that whiskey. And actually what helps with that now, another sort of geeky thing we do is we use a thing called barrel-aged water. So, you know, it's an old cognac technique, not something I created on my own, not reinventing the wheel here. But what we do is we take fully aged spirit, ready to go to bottle, as I said, 3, 4, 5-year-old spirit. We then proof it down to about 30%, 60% ABV, and we re-barrel it again and let it sit there in that barrel, let the water and whiskey sort of marry together for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And that's the water that we add to our whiskeys, which gives us an opportunity to have that sort of full, that whiskey sort of be fully integrated with the water. And so it's exciting because it makes the whiskey taste older. You get some softer, woodier notes on there. It lets the whiskey get a little bit more round and more, it sort of removes a lot of those soft edges on there. And I just think, again, it's just half cognac, you know, half American whiskey, half Scotch. I'm sort of like, you know, all these little weird compartments in my brain, but those are my motivations. And I think it's made us be different than the 99% of the distilleries out there.
Yes. And you do some very creative and unique things. And I'd heard of that being done in cognac, but that's exciting to see an American distillery doing it. Do many other distilleries do this? This is pretty unique.
I think they're doing it more now. I've heard quite a few of the big guys are starting to look at those programs. You know, I respect it. Again, I'm not, you know, thinking that I'm all seeing here. I'm just doing the thing my way. But yeah, there's a lot of distilleries who are starting to consider this. And I think, again, we're all just trying to make it our own way. California has been an innovator in a lot of industries. You've got us in wine and beer and pot and all sorts of stuff. And, you know, we want nothing more than just to sort of carry that mantle, being the Sonoma Distilling Company. You know, we feel like there's a lot of weight on our shoulders just to do really well at this job.
You've continued to push the envelope and create unique whiskeys always. And again, whether it's the black truffle or if you look around for even the cherry wood rye, whatever you might find, I'm a fan of all of these. We are fans, to say it at BourbonBLog, we are fans. I'm seeing a few comments. Someone I think is asking if they put some truffle oil in their breakfast rye. They said that they might have run out of the. That could work, right? It wouldn't be this taste.
Well, so but listen, I also like to tell people, especially if you bought like our black truffle rye, you can use it for cooking all you like. It's an expensive bottle, so it depends on your budget. But, ultimately, if you kind of want to get the sense of truffle and you want a sense of rye in there, I've even poured a little bit into a brine before, just to sort of get some of that whiskey flavor in there, some of that alcohol in there. It can be really creative if you want to. We're thinking about maybe doing a 750 of this in the future, so it would also give people a bit more. We've been getting a lot of requests for it, so we're sort of thinking maybe that's the next take.
Yeah, and I haven't really even seen truffle oil. I mean, and maybe it is used out there in cocktails. I'm sure there are cocktails that have been made with it, but it is something that you have to really balance the flavors so delicately because it's so powerful. When you how many pounds of truffles? How many truffles do you order a year for this?
Yeah, so it is a secret sauce. So the exact pitch rate, I don't necessarily tell people.
It's a few.
It's a lot. I mean, the worst part for us is that when I used to buy them, it was about $1,000 a pound when I first used to buy them.
Right.
And now I've been able to buy more, but when you're still buying, 10, 15, 20 pounds of truffles,
right,
you're still spending lots of money. So lucky for us, we've got an importer, in our area, in the Napa Sonoma area, who I literally have been able to just build this great rapport with, and we talk on a regular basis. We get them in fresh, and it's really cool just to sort of see how this comes together because, again, I can't say enough that the whiskey world is ready for food. We talk about this all the time. A lot of distillers that I respect, the Todd Leopolds of the world, Lance Winters, these guys are being nominated for the James Beard because they're thinking about food and spirit in a way that really hasn't been articulated before. And I'm just super stoked to see, what this industry is going to start doing in the next 10 years, right? Like what are those conversations? I hope truffle whiskey is part of it. Truffle rye is part of that conversation, but we're going to continue to try and push the envelope.
What do you predict? I mean, obviously we're excited like you are to see how food and pairings and the spaces can become one and the same. But what do you predict?
I mean, for me, I know I can really only speak about my own business plan because I've got a staff of people I got to protect to make sure that we're still running. But for me, like we're thinking local, right? So right now I'm making a 40-mile whiskey. So all the ingredients that I've been using in the majority of this year's production are coming within 40 miles away from the distillery, which is freaking awesome. I don't know a lot of people who are thinking that way. If you have a local footprint, you're not just thinking about the environmental impact, but you're also thinking about the fact that you're literally handing dollars to farmers. You're saying, thank you for growing this non-GMO or organic ingredient. It changes up the conversation dramatically. So that's part of it, right? That's definitely the sort of the drive, to do that. But now we're also thinking like 5-mile whiskey. So I got a guy who I've been donating my old grains to, and he feeds it to the cows, to some pigs and sheep. He's been feeding them corn, rye, barley for almost a year now, and he's been now growing barley for me. So we're gonna start harvesting barley at his farm within the next, I don't know, I think we're a month or two away. And I have a malt house on site too. So right behind my building, there's a malt house. I was able to convince a friend of mine to open there. So I can literally grow something 5 miles away, malt it on site, mill it, mash it, ferment it, distill it, barrel age it, bottle it, all on site. And, thinking that way, and, people talk a lot about like a place that whiskey is made, and not a terroir per se, but like, what does that taste like? What does Sonoma whiskey taste like? And we're still really identifying that. I think these things that we're doing are going to help us move the goalposts, even closer.
That's incredible that the 40-mile, the just coming up with the range, and also what you're doing just close by with the malt house. You have a fairly new. You opened the new the new building?
New facility, yeah. New facility is about a year old. So we still feel like we're unpacking boxes, but we're there. And we have a 1-ton grain smoker on site. So you were talking before about my cherrywood series. Mm-hmm. So the cherrywood uses California cherry trees. We take California cherry trees. We dry age the wood for about 6 months, and then we cold smoke, for about 90 degrees for 40 to 50 hours. Malted barley. So now that I'm getting malted barley from the building behind me, I'm bringing it in, laying it on the bed of this smoker. We're smoking it for a week. And now we can make a cherrywood rye, a cherrywood smoked bourbon. Who the heck knows what we're going to come up with next? There's plenty of trees that we haven't had a chance to really do too much exploration with. So,
wow.
I think that's part of what we're trying to do. It all relates back to food, because at the end of the day, the consumers are buying bottles and going home and drinking. They're being eventually served at bars and restaurants again, whenever our friends there can do that. And so, we're excited to be part of that message.
And you mentioned the barley. You do have some type of a single malt or a malted whiskey that's going to be coming out?
Yeah, so that's going to be a 2021 thing. I've really taken my time, because of the fact that I drink single malt. I mean, I drink scotches a lot at home. I'm a pretty big fan of especially Speyside Scotch in particular. I really felt like there's a lot of weight on my shoulders. Maybe it's my Scottish heritage, yelling at me through the time here. But I'm thinking a lot about what I can do to make a good single malt. What is a California single malt? That's the question I'm trying to answer. What is a Sonoma single malt? Like, what does that mean? And I think it's going to be a combination of maybe some wine barrel influence, some port barrel influence. I'm a whiskey distillery, so access to used bourbon barrels and rye whiskey barrels. I have plenty of those. And so, it really creates a fun little symbiotic relationship between my different departments. I've got the New Char American Oak for rye and bourbon, and then I can flip the switch and make, a wheat whiskey or make a single malt, and let's see what I can go with next. And so we have some that's about 4 years old right now. We'll be, almost 4 or 5 next year. And we'll just continue to see when it's ready to release and play around with some blends and see what people like.
So some of this may actually be the malted whiskey might be finished in some wine barrels.
Yeah, we're figuring a lot of that out. I mean, there's no shortage of ideas I got going through my brain. I think it's just a matter of just figuring out what the profile of this Sonoma single malt. What does that mean? What does it taste like? Where is it being used? We're so close to the Sonoma coast. You literally smell fog in the morning. Like, people think I'm full of it, but like, I went to the distillery this morning and it was foggy, overcast until about 11 o'clock. Got up to 80 degrees during the day today. During the summertime, most of the time it's also up in the 90s and 100s. And then it's foggy usually in the afternoon. So the fact that we have this coastal influence means that I should be talking about coastal scotches. What do that taste like? The salinity and saltiness of it all. Seafood. Think of Hog Island oyster in my area. I mean, these are all sort of iconic, oysters and crabs and all sorts of stuff. It's really exciting to be in Sonoma County because we're food people. That's what we talk about. That's what we do.
Absolutely. And what are things like right now? I mean, obviously we talked to you about a month ago, or give or take. What have things been like as people have started getting out more, visiting at your distillery? What are things like right now?
Yeah, it's tough. So tasting rooms right now in the state of California are closed except for wineries, due to the fact that you have to have a food application there. We've been shut down the whole time for the tasting room just because I didn't really feel like, unless I could have a great experience like we used to have, we didn't really want to do that. We were having groups of 12 people doing a full tour of the facility, sitting shoulder to shoulder with your neighbor and getting to know the product. And until you can do that again, I really just don't want to push it. The rest of the area is hurting. This summertime is really where Sonoma County and Napa County make a lot of money, and so you can feel that out there. You can feel there's a little bit of concern. I'm hearing a lot of rumors that there's going to be a lot of grapes that are just going to get thrown on the ground. They say that's what the wine people say, is that they're just going to throw grapes on the ground rather than trying to press them, which is fine. It adds to the bounty of next year in the sense that you're letting a bunch of grapes decompose and turn back into next year's grapes.
They're just not going to use them.
They're not going to use them. Yeah, it's not worth the labor of pulling them and crushing them if they don't have a use for them.
Right.
Now, we've had some people who wanted to run some brandy, and it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like. So I think we're all going to try and get through it together. I think the to-go cocktails have been a great thing for bars and restaurants in our area. I know a lot of people who've made some pretty good money on that. It's not replacing income, but it's getting there.
It's definitely helped. Yeah.
And then for us, our whiskey club, we launched it about a month ago. We just did our first release about a month ago. I released a 5-year-old cast strength single barrel for the club, which is great. I mean, you know, it sort of checks a lot of boxes for me. It allows me to release cast strengths without sort of adding too much noise. It allows me to release an age statement, which is, you know, hard because in the craft industry, you know, most of the time it's non-age statement product.
Right.
And then it's the fact that it also is a single barrel. So it's like something that I chose that really tasted great. And I'm like, I want that for my club. And so we have a club that's got, you know, it's a small group of people today. It's growing slowly but surely. We can ship to the doors in California. So that's been really a great opportunity for us.
So that people can find out about the club up on the website too.
Yeah. SonomaDistillingCompany.com/club. It's all on there. You can join it. It's going to be a 4-time-a-year club. You can either do 2 or 3 bottles. It lets you sort of continue to get stuff from us. You also can get discounts as well. And then eventually, when we can reopen the doors, I plan on doing club events and parties and pickup events and
cool.
And then tastings. You know, the opportunity to sort of sit down and do a tasting with me. You know, that's the sort of stuff. I'm in my home bunker, as you can see from the beautiful photos, and this is my wife's office. This is why it looks much better than mine at work.
That's a good thing. So the club, again, it will be unique releases just for the club, slightly older, different variations.
Yeah, exactly. We did this one to start, which is a 5-year-old. The next one I think is going to probably be a bottled and bond series. I chose a bottled and bond. I think it's actually going to be the Cherrywood Rye if it can last that long. Yeah, I did it's really freaking good. This barrel, I don't know how long it's going to last. It tastes great. It drinks great. So that's going to be the one we probably do in September. Probably do another one in December. So we sort of stagger them out by 2 or 3 months. And people have been, again, like the club members have already rebought, a bunch of them have already rebought the single barrel. So either they're gifting it to their friends or they're buying it for themselves. But, you know, I mean, maybe COVID has forced us all to be drinking a bit more indoors versus at a bar or restaurant. But, you know,
people are going to be enjoying that, I'm sure. Now, have you done some other single barrels?
Yeah. We built a whole business around it now. So and within the last year, I relaunched our channel sales. You know, the off premise, bar, the liquor stores, and the online retailers. And our sales teams in California, we're also available in Illinois, New York, UK, France, Minnesota, Missouri, Florida. And then we're going to be potentially adding a couple of additional states soon. So those people have access to single barrels. They get samples on a regular basis. A retailer goes and tries it. They choose their barrel. They get their name on the bottle, which is really great. So they get actually, you know, if you go and take a look at our Instagram page, you can go to Sonoma Whiskey. That's our @Sonoma Whiskey. And we just showed our single barrel. So where our name is on there is where the retailer gets theirs. And so it's been a really good way to connect with retailers. Some of them have done barrel tastings at the distillery. Others, we do it remotely. And I usually provide tasting notes and food pairings and stuff. So it's a really fun program. It's again, I respect that there's a lot of people doing this too. I know a lot of my friends out there in the industry offer it. Ours is fairly unique because it's all, you know, minimum 2 to 4-year-old, sometimes 5-year-old whiskeys. Wow. And it just allows us to be able to showcase the fact we've been around for, you know, a little longer than most.
Yeah, you've really grown it in an amazing way, my friend. And again, I'm sure you can go to the website to actually find out if it's in your state. The website will also be as a product locator.
Yeah, and there's also an online retailer section there too. So for whatever reason, if somebody wants to get some bottles shipped to them, they can click on those online retailers. Those folks usually ship to between 40 and 45 states. So there's a handful that no one can ship to. But yeah, those folks, we would happily do it ourselves. We're just not in the mood to get cease and desist letters and people yelling at us. So
that'll actually show you where they can.
Yeah,
that's they can buy and order it. That's good.
And we got some retailers in Illinois, New York, and California who ship everywhere. So hope people will do that. Excellent.
Check out the website, and wherever you're watching this from, definitely like this video, share it. Bookmark BourbonBLog.com/live. so that we can continue to share these videos every night. And we will also be posting this the audio of this on our podcast channel at anchor.fm/BourbonBLog. This is such tasty stuff. I really, when you first brought it out, I think it was 3 years ago. I was really happy to try it with you. I loved it, and it's so special. It's such a unique whiskey, the Black Truffle Sonoma Rye, and again at 100 proof. It doesn't taste quite like 100 proof though. It's just it drinks to me a little lower. I mean, it's just really delicate and tasty.
And the fun part also is if you decide you want to put it on ice or add some water to it, you're not going to lose the body of your whiskey. I mean, that's part of the reason I like whiskeys in particular that are above 90 proof. Is that it gives you more versatility. Once you start getting below 90, if you add ice or water to it or put into a cocktail. I've actually had people send me cocktails with the truffle. They think I'm going to get frustrated by it. I'm like, nah, I applaud you. It's your money. It's your life. I'd rather you drink like one good drink a night and make a damn good cocktail or food pairing or whatever than chow down on a couple that, use subpar ingredients, subpar products.
Right.
And so if you want to make a Manhattan out of this, I've had people who make them. I'm like, knock yourself out. That sounds great to me. I'll pour me one.
What were as far as the cocktails that they showed you they made? What have you seen people making?
I've seen sort of two ideas. So either just a classic Manhattan, the rye, the original Manhattan. I like, as we get into like the winter time, like I'll get some like really good like hot cocoa. Like in our area, we have Strauss, which is like a great milk company in Marin and Sonoma County, and they make a chocolate milk that's freaking amazing. So you can make like a hot cocoa with this, or get like real like cocoa powder and like make yourself up a little bit of black truffle rye in that. Phenomenal stuff. Also good in eggnog too. I mean, when it was the season for eggnog, I was pouring some rye in eggnog. Also bourbon does really good in eggnog too. But it was fun. I mean, I'm a simple cocktail person. So if anybody knows me at home, if I make you a cocktail in my house, people know it's usually like 2 or 3 ingredients, largely because I leave the bartending to bartenders. I'm just that's not my skill set. I can drink the hell out of them, but I don't have all the knowledge there. So.
Excellent stuff. No, it's and it goes way. Actually, I'm trying I have an old fashioned. I have several drinks in front of me. I have an old fashioned made with your.
I noticed that.
Made with your Sonoma rye, not with the black truffle, but with your Sonoma rye. It's amazing. It's a great whiskey by itself. Your bourbons and your whiskeys are great by themselves. Obviously, your cherry wood rye and bourbon are amazing in so many things. Manhattans flavors are so complex and unique. As far as other things that you've thought about infusing into rye or bourbon besides truffles, have you tried some other things, or will you try infusing other unexpected ingredients in the future?
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know. I mean, to me, the cherry woods made a hell of a lot of sense because you use maraschino in cocktails all the time. So like the connection point between cherry and rye or cherry and bourbon was like, it seemed almost simple. It seemed so simple. We're sort of surprised that people hadn't done it before us. But then with that said, I'm open to other suggestions. As I said, there's a lot of smokes I haven't messed with. I've been asked the question a lot, like, are we willing to do like peat? Like, what's our take on peat? I love like peated scotches. They're totally great. You can think of like a Lagavulin or Lafroig, or you can think of like an Octomore. Those. Super peat rich Benriach. I've had a couple Benriachs that are phenomenal too. But, I'd rather leave that for the Scots, right? I mean, I'm trying to think local. Yeah, we got a little bit of peat locally, but generally speaking, let's leave the peat to the Scots and let's figure out our own thing. We're Americans, right? We got plenty of stuff we can smoke. We'll figure it out.
So I may be seeing some more infusions from you in the future.
Yeah, I will say, and you'll appreciate this. One time I was at a whiskey show. I was at Whiskey Live Paris, and somebody walked up to the table and had me try a tobacco liqueur that they made. Wow. And I was like, what? And I had to go to sit there, and I was like, how'd you make this and why? He's like, you'll never be able to sell this in the States. It tastes great. It's something small batch I made. whoever that person is, I need to find that person, because that stuff was great. And so, I'm constantly motivated, right? I mean, part of the value of not calling yourself a master distiller yet is that you can actually go out there and just be super humble and stand in line just like everybody else and try products that you like and have a really open mind about what you can do differently and better. And I'm just stoked that, I'm at this in this industry at this time, because there's just the stuff that's coming out these days. I mean, you even saw it the other day, Old Overholt is releasing an 11-year-old, whiskey. You're like, Old Overholt's one of the most like underrated rye whiskeys on the market. Right. Now they're releasing this like kick-ass 11-year-old. Like, I'll find a bottle as fast as I possibly can. Yeah. Like, I'm an enthusiast too. So that's been fun.
That's exciting. Well, it's so great to have you back here, Adam. It's always good to see you, and I can't wait to see your new place there in Sonoma. And I know your last place. I'm trying to remember when I was there, was several years ago. You had a dispensary close by and an ice cream place both. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So we had an ice cream place that we were able to get like we were making some like whiskey infused sandwiches. Unfortunately, that place closed. There's plenty of dispensaries close to us. We're in Sonoma County. There's a
kind of all the good stuff right in one place. I remember that, and I'm sure you're fun to see your new place.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some opportunity to do some fun stuff. I mean, we're also in dairy country too, so who's to say that a bourbon cream may not happen one day, or there's a lot of fun stuff that we can do. And again, I'm not worried about competition. Like, I'll tell people my recipes. We list the mash bills on our glass. Like, it's not like we're hiding something. I want us all to like have some fun together and sort of do this. And the people who buy our products today are recognizing that this is the best thing we've made so far. And every year we release something, I think it's the best thing I've made. Our goal is to meet or exceed the quality of every batch we make. So, our goal is to do that. I appreciate it for everybody who's supported us the last 10 years.
You're definitely doing that. And absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love what you guys do, your team and your distillery, and just your innovation. The flavor is so unique. You wanted to make sure of that from the beginning, and you continue to do that. So well done on great whiskey. And thanks for being here on BourbonBLog Live and the chance to try your Black Truffle Rye. It's delicious, man. It's great stuff.
Thank you. Well, happy to do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
If you have any questions, anybody can always go on our social media handles. Sonoma Whiskey, SonomaDistillingCompany.com. Join our club. We'd love to have you. And then as time goes on, obviously, we'll welcome you back any day.
Excellent. SonomaDistillingCompany.com, and check that out and come back. We will be with you again, the viewers, on Saturday night. We'll be bringing you our Cigar Saturday on BourbonBLog.com/live on Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And maybe we'll even get you watching and having a cigar. I don't know. Might have.
I love that. Trust me. You don't ask me twice.
Cheers, Adam. Great to see you, my friend.
You too, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers, buddy.